Welcome to Nickel City Chronicles, and today my special guest is Richie English, musician, and dude, I really was looking forward to this, man. Like, I follow you on social media, and I'm just fascinated by some of the stuff you're doing, man. Like, tell us a little bit backstory about yourself.
Well, it's good to be here, Neal. We are old high school buddies,
Yes.
so we haven't seen each other in a minute, but it's great to be
Yes.
back and tell people about myself. Born and raised in Buffalo, and I am a musician. I'm primarily a composer and pianist. For a lot of years, I was a full-time concert pianist, and that was my entire life. And then in about 2012, I did a session at GCR Audio, which is a studio downtown Buffalo, operated and owned by Goo Goo Dolls.
Nice. Other Buffalo natives as well.
Yes, and I had done a session there for a band. I had written string orchestra for the band on this, and the guys heard it. The Goo Goo Dolls, happened to kind of be around, or Robbie was, because the Goo Goo Dolls are Robbie and Johnny. And
yep.
So Robbie was there, and he heard it, and I came back the next day, and he told me, I'll never forget this moment. He had said that he had never, he said that he had worked with everybody in the world who does this, and which is true. I mean, they're at the height, the Goo Goo Dolls.
Yeah.
And he said he had never heard anybody write something like that. And he looked at me and he went, "You think differently about this, don't you?" And then
right.
And I remember listening to this man saying this and thinking, okay, he doesn't have to say this right now. Like, he has worked with everybody. Like, there's no reason for him to say this to me. If it weren't true. So he's saying all this, and it's like a surreal experience, because I sort of knew what was coming next. And what was coming next was he asked if I wanted to stick around and work with the studio and build something, like make it sort of the center of the world for orchestration. And so I wound up working with Goo Goo Dolls and writing orchestra on their records. My first record with them was in 2013. It's a record called Magnetic, and I wrote string orchestra on a song on that, and I played piano on the same song. And then I also did the next album in 2016. But
Wow.
After I'd gotten my name credited for the first time, like on a Goo Goo Dolls record, I was very blessed, because a lot of other bands at that point start calling, so
Right, they noticed.
yeah. And at that point, people, it gets on the radio, like you're on it, I can go to any store in the world and buy my own record and see my name on it.
Wow.
And at that point you can also start contacting other artists,
Right,
that you want to work
you're in
with.
the door now. You got your foot in the door.
Yeah. Well, it's not even, I mean, like, at that point you're in the room.
Yeah, you're in the room, right? Yeah,
So
that's a fact.
So I really ran with that. I hustled as hard as I could. If I wanted to work with a band or artist, I literally would take a song already released and write string orchestra for it and record it right there and send it to the band itself and say, like, I work with the Goo Goo Dolls. Here's my resume. This is what could have been for the this band, and if you want it to be that way for the next record, contact me.
Wow.
And they would.
Yeah.
So I did that with a lot of bands, and they'd start calling, and I mean, some of the groups, a couple of these things have not come out, so I'm not allowed to talk about them. It's painful,
but it's coming down the pipeline, so stay tuned. Follow Richie English.
Yeah, there's
Twitter too.
Twitter, I have like a hidden account just because I hate it so much.
Yeah, I'm like the same way.
I hate Twitter. I
follow
really do.
this man on Facebook.
Facebook,
he's got some stuff coming down the pipeline.
But like that, before any of that happened, I was strictly a classical guy.
Right.
That was my thing. I mean, like, I studied at University of Buffalo, where you're going.
Yeah.
And I I'm 36 now, but I was a senior at UB when I was 21, and that year the Dalai Lama had come.
Oh yeah, I remember that for Buffalo. Yeah.
And I played 2 concerts for him.
Yeah, wow.
Personally, and the night before, I see. This is the thing. Like for anyone who might be listening right now, who aspires, to be a professional artist in some way, do it. This is the time right now. I want to say that first. You're going to naturally hear people say, but it's not stable. Of course it's not stable. Nothing in life that is extraordinary, literally extraordinary, out of the ordinary, it's inherently unstable. It wouldn't be special if it wasn't risky. But so that's my first thing I want to say.
Yeah,
is do it. Fucking do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do what you love to do, because that's not even work if you love it. But you still got to put that work in too.
Yeah, and because here is what happened when I played for the Dalai Lama. It wasn't the performance itself that I was nervous about. I love performing. I get to hop on stage with people like Goo Goo Dolls now in front of thousands of fans, and conduct a string orchestra that I've written. How much more of a blessing can you have? But the thing with the Dalai Lama when I was 21 was this: the entire month leading up to that performance for him, because I personally performed for this man, and I knew the entire month leading up to it, I was like, if I jam a finger, if I get 103 fever a couple days before this, if I'm on my way to this performance and my car spins out and gets into an accident or something like that, I will wake up the rest of my life knowing I could have played for the Dalai Lama. And the horror of that experience, of living with that for a month, and how can I tell a person?
That's fascinating.
And so what happened was, I started getting, I started feeling lonely, because there's no way that I can get any help for a problem like that. That is in fact a real thing. And what are people going to say? Well, there's always next time. No, motherfucker, there's not next time. The entire point of what would make something like that, being asked to do that,
that's your one shot.
That's it. You're lucky, if the person asks you, to do anything even approximating that once in your life. But that's once in 50 lifetimes.
Yeah.
And
I can't say I've ever been asked to open up for the Dalai Lama before.
Yeah, I live, and there's a picture on my Facebook of me holding hands with the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, and I saw that actually.
And that was after the concert. And so what happened was, the night before I performed for him, that was the first time I drank an entire bottle of vodka, because by this time I was drinking alone all the time. And I was a severe alcoholic by this point.
Which a lot of musicians are, by the way.
Oh yeah. It's almost a job hazard, but it has more to do though with the mindset of a consummate artist. It's like the same thing that's responsible for you to achieve the height of your craft, that drive and that inability to regulate yourself or balance your life. Being a genius or at something or in general is an inherent imbalance. You're never going to read about a person in history ever who's made history or made a big impact where it's going to say about this person in their biography, and he was a very well balanced person who was very calm and he really had his shit together. No. You're not going to, but at the same time it's you still have to sort of strive to be that way, kind of knowing deep down you're not going to get to it. And so that really, that's the job hazard. The alcohol, the same thing that is responsible for the success of an artist is the same thing that will often kill them. There's just no off switch. So I drink, or drank, because February 19th, it'll be 10 years I haven't had a drink.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah, it's by the grace of God.
Yeah.
And but the same thing responsible for the alcoholism is the same thing that's responsible for my ability to succeed as a concert pianist, because you're not even in the game, so to speak, as a classical musician until you can play perfectly. At that point, like, okay, you qualify to compete. Like, that's the, like, and I mean perfectly. Like, it's so to even get to like the level of work that it takes. Like, I never looked at it as work. Like that same drive where I'm just like, I absolutely can't conceive of not being this. Like, it never even entered my mind that I would fail. Like, not only is failure sort of not an option, it was just like it never.
Yeah.
It was just like it didn't even occur to me. And so the same thing that that enables that is the same thing that very nearly killed me several times.
Right.
There's just I don't get to pick what I apply to.
They both are the same source.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is why a lot of artists, and this is why a lot of athletes and get destroyed and die early, is because that mindset that enables them to compete at that level is the same mindset that they can't control in their own lives. They can't hold down a relationship.
Yeah.
Neither can I. So it's the same thing. Like, yeah, there's well, you've done better than I have. Like it's
barely.
Like, I mean,
but you know what I was thinking though? Pain creates creativity. Creative ideas come from emotion.
They do. But when you're in pain, and I mean real blackness, like a lot of us, we have the luxury, of kind of believing throughout most of our lives, that like we've been in like real serious. I don't know. Pain is relative, so it's hard for me to say this, but like,
right.
But like when you experience something like truly shattering, it's like a flatness.
Yeah.
It's like an absence of anything. I'm obsessed with black holes.
Me too.
Like supermassive black holes. Like
fascinating.
This is my rabbit hole. Like no pun, but like literally, like the concept of them is so horrifying,
right?
That it like enables me to truly worship the Lord, because like that's what represents God's
bending
power
space time right in front of you.
The fact that like literally you have something the size 66 billion times the size of our sun. I mean, the size of our city is not like, it doesn't compute for us.
No.
Like the size of the planet for us, we can't really fathom.
We're like an ant in a
the
mole.
size of our sun in comparison to that,
can't even imagine
the size of a black hole that is 66 billion times that. So like,
I just played the animation of.
So did I. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm playing it while you're talking right now.
Yeah. Well, I just watched it on YouTube. Like, it's like to go into a black hole, but I bring it up because like a black hole is, well, it's a lot of things, but like, let's take space. Like, space is essentially an absence. It's like, that's what a vacuum is. Like, there's nothing.
Right.
Like, nothing is an absence. And when you're in, shattered, like when something shattered you, like I'm talking like a death of somebody who, like, I had that happen recently. My grandfather, who was incredibly close, who died, a few weeks ago, and I'm still going through it.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Like, but it's still not that level of pain. Like, anybody who's gone through the type of pain that I'm trying to describe and like failing to quantify will understand that it's like you can't. It incapacitates you.
Right.
Like the idea of doing anything.
It's like you become like immovable.
Yeah, like
like paralyzed by it.
Yeah, so pain. It's less pain that generates great art. It's fire that does it. Like, a passionate, like anger. Like, so when I get angry,
right,
that's when I'm at my best. Like but like real pain, like if you survive the pain,
you can turn that into.
Then when you are able to look back and the pain will deepen you.
Yeah.
Like as Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Yeah.
The only way out is through. So,
yeah, man.
And that's what
That's a fact.
So when you're in the state of like pain and horror, though, especially as artists, we're always told like torture breeds it. No, it doesn't. Like, it doesn't. Like, I'm here to tell you, torture does not breed anything but you risk your own life and you drag your loved ones around you into pain, kicking and screaming against their wills.
Yeah.
Like, we as artists, like Beethoven's a perfect example. Everyone in the Romantic period, which is the period that after Beethoven, they were so in awe of the fact that he had gone deaf when he was 28, the fact that he had arthritis, the fact that he had all kinds of gastro problems, probably diverticulitis. He had mercury poisoning. Like this guy was in constant. He was under siege by every level of pain, that you can think of. And but the thing about Beethoven is like what he achieved in spite of the pain. So what makes Beethoven so great is the fact that this is the same man who said, "I will seize fate by the throat. Most assuredly, I will never let it get me down." That is, but the Romantic period,
deep right there.
Yeah, But the Romantic period celebrated the wrong thing. They're the ones who started glorifying the torture rather than the triumph over the torture. That is what Beethoven was all about. Was like defiance of pain.
Right.
He didn't want to be in pain.
Just being in pain doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
To defy pain
is
what shapes your
exactly.
where your ideology, your worldview, your strength, your self-actualization, knowing my defects, right? And knowing what my strengths are too, and applying all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Boy, I do actually. That's a big part of how I remain sober.
Yeah.
Is especially people that anyone out there listening that struggles with addiction or of any kind. It's on us to we have to be. You'll hear it's said in AA, being rigorously honest. With us, the moment any level of dishonesty about myself creeps in, if I don't nip that right in the bud, I have essentially relapsed. The drinking is a symptom of that. That's just a byproduct. The relapse happens long before you drink.
Yeah.
I don't just wake up one day and something happens to me, like my grandfather dying, or God forbid,
right.
my mother, or something, and just be like, oh great, well fuck, this, I'm drinking. That's not, how that happens. The relapse is like a slow, gradual destabilization of your own sense of being truthful with yourself. And then you just get to a point where you've compromised enough of your desire to remain sober, and then you go out and eventually do it. You wait for an excuse.
Yes,
so you can point to other people and go, see, this is why I went back out.
Yeah.
Look how destroyed I am.
Yeah. Yeah, feel bad for me.
So it's very insidious, but yes, the whole self-actualization thing that you said, there are certain people where that's very incumbent on them. It's like diabetics, have a disease. They are responsible for taking their insulin.
Yeah.
And staying away from cake and things like that.
Right. The decision making and actual doing stuff, not just what I'm saying, not just taking insulin, but you have to actually live it too.
I walked around hating people, for a long time that could drink. I went through this for a while, this deep-seated resentment that they could drink and I couldn't. Well, that's like hating a person, that can eat cake if you're diabetic.
Same thing. Yeah.
And plus living, with that kind of, I can drink. It's always Miller time. Look at this right here. Seriously, look what I'm sitting around. It's always Miller time. You can always go back.
Yeah.
You can always go back out at any time that you want to. But the problem is, it's a myth that you can always come back.
Right.
You're lucky if you.
Very lucky.
You're lucky if you even see a window.
Yeah.
Whereby you can, because we only want to get sober when we're high. I mean, that's just for everybody. The idea that you're gonna want to stop drinking,
let's get a little closer to the mic.
Yeah, you're the idea that you'll want to stop drinking or stop using, is an absurd lie. When you think about it, the best that we can hope for, as addicts, is to wish that you could wish that you could stop. Like, nobody really wants to stop. You have to kind of be removed from it by somebody else or some other circumstance.
And you brought up the pain part, and sometimes for some people, I'm speaking on myself. For me, the pain had to be great enough for me to say, I didn't even want to go back to stuff I was in. So I've disclosed this already. So I don't know. Some of you might not have heard this yet, but I too had struggled with addiction years ago. Went to prison for 18 months. Went back to prison. Went to Willard. Went to Shock and all that. Rough, dude. I had a rough decade, about maybe a little more than a decade, with heroin, opiates, and people ask me how most people don't stop that, right?
No.
Most people don't just stop doing it.
No, most people die.
You die or you keep going until you die. That's what it is. And for me, man, I was lucky to have the pain was great enough. I hit bottom so many times, hit bottom, and then found another hole after the bottom.
You can keep digging,
right. What's the quote? When you hit bottom, you can still keep. What is it? Something about keep digging. I can't remember the quote.
Never really heard the quote.
There is a quote about that. Where
there
it's
is
like,
no bottom. The bottom is when you stop digging.
The bottom is when you stop digging. That's what the quote was. Your bottom is when you stop digging. So there is no bottom, like you just said. Thank you for that. Would have sounded horrible if I didn't clarify that. So yeah, that eventually I had to stop digging, man. Like where is this taking me? I'm back in prison again, back in the same spot. Lost my job again. Lost my education again. Kicked out of school again. Where am I going? And I had to sit there and sit in that pain and deal with it, like that stench. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, that was it. Eventually, I just had to stop and then surround myself with people. This was a big part of it, though. I'll say this is the biggest part. I actually had to look at the big picture and say, is this all about me? Like, there's got to be something greater than this. So I had to come to an understanding that there is something, whatever you're going to call it, the universe, God, fairies, whatever you want to call it. Something created me. This universe, matter can't just make matter, or no.
It can't spontaneously arise.
Yeah. So something,
has to be an origin.
There's a reason why I'm here. And I'm like, the piece of shit that I am, why am I even here? So, I'll tell you the truth, man. I dug deep into spirituality, reading scripture from different religions, and just kind of finding common denominators in all those things, and realizing that, like you even talking about black holes. Eventually, the universe is all going to get brought into one black hole, and that's going to be the end of it. What's after that? Because all this information that we're doing, we're talking to each other right now. We're getting memories from this. This is all data that's going to be stored somewhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, like matter not being able to be destroyed, just repurposed or constituted. Like, yeah, the universe. I mean, we're talking about the universe, and the universe is a thing with boundaries. It's like that's like it is in fact expanding at the moment.
Right.
Like, how can something limitless expand? So
mind-blowing
what's beyond
concept.
the limits, and clearly, we're talking about it collapsing and sort of the end of time, which doesn't even exist in the first place.
Right.
It's
relative.
Yeah, all those questions. When I was using, I would allow those questions to overwhelm me, and I'd use them. Everything became like fuel and possible excuses to justify my own drinking. Everything in my life. That's the worst part of being an addict, is it doesn't how much you use or how little. If you drink once a year, if you are a heroin user and you use once a decade, or it doesn't matter. If you're looking at that clock and you're looking at that calendar and just kind of pining deep down, just like, oh, please, okay, can we just get to this date? Can we just get to this time of the day, please? Everything in
man.
So this was the worst part for me, is literally everything in my life when I, even the things like the Dalai Lama, performing for him. Like, I was a 21-year-old kid, and I'm asked to play for, this guy that people look at as a god, essentially. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't possibly explain to anybody how unimaginable, unspeakable it would be to wake up the rest of my life knowing that I could have done this. And it got to the point where like that was a fate worse than death for me. And then I did it, and I snapped the pictures that are on there. I was completely hungover. I played brilliantly. I did. Like that, had it have impaired my ability to do music, I might have gotten sober quicker. That's not really an important issue.
Yeah, you're just kind of speculating.
Yeah, but I like one thing I do know is that the fact, like, for some reason that was the one thing that was never impaired. And
that's interesting.
At least at that point,
Yeah.
But even the Dalai Lama was something to get through. I was because as soon as I finished playing for him, it was about 12:30 in the afternoon, and I went straight in my tux.
Wow!
I went straight to, and this I've never told anybody.
Wow, exclusive.
But yeah, I figured, I'm sitting with my friend here, and it's nice. It's like informal,
Yeah.
Just to not like other interviews I've done. They're great. I'm so blessed. It's not a complaint, but it's you kind of know it's going to be going out into some big, magazine or something.
Yeah, it's filtered
it's
through
there.
shit. Yeah.
And so you tend to have to be careful. But no, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna say what I want because we're buddies.
Yeah.
And it also just feels good to say what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
After I did that at 21 in my tux, at 12:30 in the afternoon, I went straight to Ying's Wings and Things and Bar. Straight there. I drove straight.
That's the 24-hour joint.
Mm-hmm.
So it must have been late.
And I was sitting there at 12:30 in the afternoon, and I got completely hammered, and everyone's looking at me, obviously because I'm sitting there in the tux. And I remember thinking why are you here? And like, bitch, why do you think I'm here? Like,
by yourself in the tux, man. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, and so like that became like I wound up in the addiction is the great regulator. Everybody is like, I don't care. Like, it might wear different clothes from person to person.
Might be food, might be sex, might be something.
Or you may be, everyone from Eric Clapton to, I don't know. I'm not trying to assign value based on accomplishment, but like the homeless person on the street to Eric Clapton, like,
right.
It's you wind up in the same place. You wind up alone by yourself. Mm-hmm. Drinking a bottle or using whatever, substitute drinking for whatever it is, and you wind up alone by yourself, maybe thinking I wish I was dead, but then kind of realizing, well, if I was dead, that would mean I couldn't drink anymore. And it gets that absurd.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you're right. The things you tell yourself,
things become so black sometimes and so awful that like there is this absurd, hysterical humor, like without humor.
Wow.
Like you just have to laugh.
Yeah.
Like at some point without any humor, like because it just becomes so surreal, like how, like what a cartoon, awful state, that your life can become, but it can always become more awful. I mean, like, and we don't, for years, everything in my life was, something to be gotten through until I could drink, until I could use, until it wasn't until I discovered, like it took me a few tries, before the sobriety, took, it's like rehearsing a breakup. Yeah. It's like you don't break up once with a person, like you break up several times, with the person, because you're kind of rehearsing how to transition into the state of like, how to make that a smooth rather than start transition. And, often it's the same thing with getting sober. And so I did, if you want to call it relapse, I did that 15, 20 times. And
sure.
But the thing is, it's rock bottoms are a weird thing. They're always relative. They only stop, when you stop digging. If your spade breaks, I would have used dynamite at that time, and started to blow my way down. And often they're over weird things. They're not over the big tragedies. Yeah. They're over like small things where finally you're like, so for Eric Clapton, him, all the really gross, ways that his addiction had degraded him, that was fine. The public embarrassments, whatever. What did it for him finally was he liked fishing. And one morning he got up and he wanted to go fishing, and there were like professional fishermen out there, and he was hammered. And he fell and tripped in his drunken state and broke the fishing poles, and all the fishermen saw this and turned away, and it was that moment where he's like, fuck this, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore. And he never drank again.
Wow.
Even when his son fell out of a window and died, he didn't relapse.
Isn't that fascinating how different?
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's amazing, because we don't know what the Lord will use.
Good point.
To bring about his own means, and to try to predict it is almost like inviting him to teach you a lesson.
Wow.
It's and that's one thing I've learned in my own life is I've learned two things with that. One is the most dangerous word is never. Every single time I've said that, I literally said in high school, I literally said this. I didn't drink till I was 19, and I said I will never be like these people that go and party like losers. 5 years later, the heroin addicts were lighting my cigarettes in detox number 1, because I was in several. That was just alcohol. Just alcohol, but like, and because I was shaking, I couldn't light my own cigarettes, and the heroin addicts were in there lighting them for me, saying, "Man, you're really messed up."
Oh shit!
5 years later, after saying that, like, and then I said, "I'll never go back out and drink again, ever." Like, I can't, like, I was looking at people that would relapse and think, "Oh, these people are just making excuses." 2 years later, I was put in my 3rd psych ward involuntarily this time, because at that point I had snorted so much cocaine and drank so much vodka that I could not at the time tell the people in the triage what my name was.
Wow.
So that was, so the point I'm trying to make is the possibilities are limitless. In terms of, degradation and how much you can experience and how much you can perpetrate in other people's lives. And I wasn't beaten by mommy and daddy. I mean, my parents are unbelievable. I was not bullied in high school or any school. I didn't experience a string of horrible failures. Like, what did me in was there was just an anxiety.
Some hole inside you.
I just felt guilty for all the blessings. I felt like, why me? And there was a hole, and I kind of felt like why do I have this hole?
Yeah, what's this void here?
Why should I have this? And so I wanted to, like, create my own reason. Like, and go, you see, this is why.
Yep.
But the thing is, like, the act of creating my own reason, all the drinking, I was doing it because the hole already existed, and so
that's selfishness.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's pure selfishness.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah,
it's pure selfishness. Like, That's what addiction is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Like, addiction is selfishness distilled. It's pure, uncut selfishness.
And that's what I was getting at when I was talking about how I turned around. Like, when I was still digging at rock bottom, and I said to myself, there's got to be something greater than myself. Just saying those words to myself is an act of selflessness, and finally realizing I'm a selfish fucking piece of shit.
And it takes the pressure off you, too.
I'm sitting here in jail calling mommy to help me get some commissary. What the fuck? Like, how worse can you be as a human being?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I remember it. It's interesting that you said that. Like, we love our moms,
Yeah,
and
of course.
there's nobody on the face of this earth that I love more than my mom. And I remember, this is another thing I never told anybody, but you know what? Let's, this is, like I said, this is nice just to sort of relax and
I love this type of format.
But yeah, for anyone, even one person here hears any of this, like, it's a blessing beyond blessings, because I just want to get very real about this. I love my mother more than anybody, and right at the end of the ordeal with cocaine for me, which is 10 years ago almost, there was one night where the oxygen addiction breeds is lying. You cannot be an addict and not be fundamentally a liar, if not to only your, to others, if you haven't really gotten to that point, certainly to yourself.
Exactly.
And but sooner or later you'll get there with other people. You know. But the thing is, you do need it. Your physiology changes. It is a need.
Yes.
And you'll do anything. So this idea that like, the innate, sorry, how human beings are, deep down like inherently good. Oh, really? Spend 5 days in a real famine or something like that, and you'll slit your own mother's throat.
Yep.
Like at that point, like it's the law of the jungle. Like we're not inherently good.
Yeah.
We are not inherently good. We have the capacity to be good because there's a God that is pure perfection and goodness, and allows us to have a framework that we then have to work incredibly hard to even maintain, kind of. And so I bring up this thing with my mom. There was one night where I was home on Christmas break. I was living in Canada at the time in a PhD program. And I was at the height of my cocaine addiction, and everybody knew, and I must have weighed.
Look at that duality in a PhD program.
Oh yeah,
at the height of your cocaine use.
Yeah, like like that's the thing is like I didn't. I have so many stories about it. Yeah, like I was. It didn't get to the point where it had impeded my ability to succeed, and so I, all the successes that I had up to that point became like a shield for me to deflect against anybody who would criticize me. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you're going to tell me that I'm an alcoholic? Like, I'm pretty sure that I graduated with 168 credit hours and graduated with a 3.9 GPA.
Wow.
Like, I played for the Dalai Lama twice. Like, what have you done with your life?
I can relate to some
fucker?
shit like that. You're right,
and now inherently I knew that was bullshit.
Yeah.
And they knew it, but I would use like a shock and awe thing. But you see what I'm saying? It all became about the next drink. Like all those great blessings and incredible accomplishments that I worked really hard for, and I was given the ability to even, try for, became a deflective thing, like a shield to make it impossible for anybody to like even call me an alcoholic.
Right.
So it all became about enabling the usage. And one night my mom, this is horrible, but let me show you, because I love my mother more than anybody. And this is like, this became like a latent rock bottom. This is when I knew like I had a real problem.
Yeah.
She had said to me, she confronted me very calmly, and she wanted me to lift up, she wanted me to open up this little drawer that I had locked, because she, of course, thought that there was cocaine in it. And I knew why she was doing it. And I knew that if she did it, she would look there. So, and so I opened the box and it wasn't there. And I then proceeded to shame her so hard, to the point where I reduced my mother to tears. She was sitting on my bed. She was just worried about me. And I'm sitting there, and little did my mom know she was just sitting on it. She just looked in the wrong place. And I'm sitting there like with no, like all of what I'm saying right now was like,
that's crazy.
Cocaine is the worst of them.
Yeah.
Cocaine is one where even the atheists will call it evil. Like cocaine is from the pit of hell.
Yeah.
And I
believe that too.
And so I remember I was sitting in my room, and it was that point where I became very aware I was like a passenger in my own body, like that the addiction was wearing me, because this is what I thought. I'm sitting there hearing myself. This was like the closest thing to a true out-of-body experience that I had.
Wow.
And when you have an experience like that, it's horrifying.
That is.
And I'm listening to myself speak and thinking to myself so clearly, I'll never forget this. Like, I was like, this is interesting. I don't need to be doing this, and yet I'm making this person that I love pay for being right, but just looking in the wrong place. Now I'm just degrading her on purpose, and I'm making my mother cry just because I can.
Trying to reverse
my
the table.
own mother, who I love more than anything. And then suddenly a couple awarenesses hit me. I realized that any feelings whatsoever, at that point in my addiction, I had lost the ability to experience them. They were like broken radio transmissions.
Yep, that's what happens.
Like coming in from a distant planet. Like, you know,
It's almost like you lose your sense of being a human,
yes,
and you
do,
just become
exactly. Oh my God.
animalistic.
You do. Like everything becomes like data.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I became like vulcanized. You
Yeah.
know, like and then I realized
You're just living on instinct. The next thing, the next cause and effect. The next what's my next move? Like I gotta go eat. I gotta get used. I gotta use. You know what I'm saying?
So you've just said it better than I ever could. You live on pure instinct.
Yeah.
Like this idea that drugs and alcohol and these things make you somebody that you aren't is such poisonous bullshit. Let me tell you what alcohol and drugs do. It's not that you know, for instance, cocaine made me a person that I wasn't. The problem with cocaine is that it made me too much of who I really am.
Yeah.
And it's like you hitting Control Alt Delete on your computer, and one by one you're clicking off all those background protective processes that are like the hidden programs that keep your computer running smooth.
Interesting.
Now it's going to overheat. Now it's like too bright.
Yeah.
It's going to burn itself out and fry.
Yeah.
And that's what was going on. And I remember it was that moment where I'm sitting there in my room and making my mother cry, and like making her like deliberately just doing it. And it was that point where I had just said like, I remember thinking this, I wish I could wish I was dead.
That's crazy.
And it was that point where
that's how I felt too.
And I still didn't stop using. But you know,
exactly.
like
it doesn't. That's not what it is. It doesn't.
So I stopped using because I had true friends. And
right.
They blew me in.
You have to go outside of yourself.
They had me committed
that's
to
that's the only way to actually
have to
fix
be
it. You have to get out of your side of your selfish ass self.
You have to remove yourself from your ability to use.
Someone else has to take the wheel.
Yeah, but I mean, like literally, I had to be removed. With me, I got to the point where I had lost the ability. We lose the ability quite quickly with alcohol or drugs or, you know, both, whatever, to even stop on our own. Like so you said you had gone to jail.
Yeah.
Like you had a point.
State prison too.
Yeah, and you're not getting heroin there, right? So,
well,
I mean, you can,
but no, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just gonna walk and grab it real quick.
Like you were removed from it. You were forced to be away from
detox.
It. Exactly.
Cold turkey.
I had a week in my third psych ward where I was involuntarily committed. Like,
dude,
and I was, and it's like somebody taking you, like pulling you back from the edge just a little bit, like where you
a week of no sleep.
Yeah, none.
Great. It was the worst experience of my life. I'm surprised I didn't hang it. Like I'm for real. I'm surprised.
That happens.
I'm surprised I made through that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like you start shocking yourself and being like, I can make it through this.
Right.
And then, you know, like at first you are surviving your own life.
Yes.
But then you have to learn how to truly live it.
Yeah. And
the thing is, like the addiction itself, you're surviving your own life. You're just, you know, kind of like making it it's all fraudulent. Yeah. I mean, I mean, you can talk it to death, but like the whole thing is, if you're out there and you find yourself, just ask yourself this question. Don't ask how much you drink or how much you smoke or how much, you know, like the amount is arbitrary. It doesn't it tends to escalate into gross excess, but I don't care if you're drinking one drink per year. If you're looking at that calendar and you're honest with yourself and you're counting down those days and you can't wait until whatever date you want to pick, you have a problem.
Yes. It's all about the way you feel.
Exactly.
If you want to change the way you feel, you don't like the way you feel, something's wrong.
Do you want to get through your life?
Yeah. Are you living in the moment for today, like for right now, and enjoying yourself in the present moment? Or are you like racing through time, like, I got to get past this week so I can do this, or I got to get past this so this job can be over, and I got to get past this day. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And now that's a lifelong battle.
Yeah.
Like, you know, to make sure I'm staying or I'm as much in that state. Like I will, God forbid I ever stop learning how better to do that, because there are moments where we will have to survive our own life.
You never attain that nirvana state. You're always reaching, you're always progressing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what though? I want to take a 2-second break, and I want to touch up on the like, I want to spin this and talk about how we, like the positive, like the recovery side of it a little bit, and get into some of that, you know what I'm saying? Because we kind of went over some doom and gloom and some hard shit that we went through, and we'll turn it around. Just in 1 second, I'm going to show some of your links and some of your, you know what I'm saying?
Working with Richie is awesome. He's a great guy. He knows a lot about music, a lot more than I do. So it's fun just to learn from him. and all the string parts that Mike and myself and him worked on together. We went through it and edited it just the way we wanted it, and we really think it came out great on 2020 and Staring Into the Sun. We had a great time doing it, and it was a pleasure working with him, and hopefully we'll be working with him again.
We're back from our break, and man, what a soul-filled segment, like, podcast this has been, man. I'm so glad you disclosed all that stuff.
It's been harrowing, but it's been wonderful.
And I hope someone out there hears this and knows somebody that struggling, maybe share it with them, or like if one person heard this and it can help them a little bit.
Absolutely,
mission complete.
Absolutely, like like the level of blessing that would be. Like I guess just like Neal said, the one thing I want to convey, like, for myself, like, I'm glad that you had mentioned, like to get it into the topic of the recovery itself, because one problem that's easy to fall into is people get too lost in the war stories.
Yes.
And I'm here now, and I had to, I still have to be vigilant about not glorifying it, because anybody can destroy themselves, and tear others down. Like, to destroy something doesn't take any talent. It took 20, 30 years to build the World Trade Centers. It's some number. It took 10 minutes to rip them down. It doesn't take much.
That's
right?
deep right there.
Yeah, so what separates
destruction is quick and easy and fast.
Yeah.
Recovery takes.
But can you build?
Yeah.
And how well? And that's living.
And then building to the point where you can prevent, like, the building. How strong is your foundation?
Yes.
So when we were on the break, we were talking about a friend of ours, a mutual friend who we both adored, and everyone adored this person, and he died in addiction. And he had a father who was in recovery, who had 40 years sober, and watched his only son die of the thing that he struggled with.
Yes.
And what was it? What did he say?
I went to the meeting with him,
and we're keeping this anonymous.
Yeah,
we're not saying names.
Yeah. I remember I had gone to the so the date that our friend died is my it was February 19th. And that's my sobriety date, because that's what finally did it. I remember seeing his body in the casket, and I remember thinking to myself,
that's deep.
I remember thinking he wouldn't wear a suit. There was something so perverse, because I was like, only a few days or weeks before that, I had been playing spades with him. That that's how he and I got close, was in the recovery arena. And he had got 5 days before he died. He and I were chatting via Facebook, and he had said to me, I got to get back to these meetings, because if I don't, I'm going to die, bro. And he did. And I remember there was some, I'm looking at this, that anyone who's been to a wake and seen this, like, it turns you into like a porcelain doll. And there was something so awful and like horrifying about that. And I'm looking at it in all kinds of, and I remember I had to like stifle actual hysterical laughter, like out of hysteria. Like, that was my reaction. It was so traumatizing, I wanted to start giggling. And
that's real too.
Yeah. And like that started happening to me. And I remember looking at his father there, and then hearing his father at the meeting that I had gone to a week later, and his father led right off with, and I'm saying, this is exactly what he said. It had a seismic impact. He said, I'm here to tell you that I'm not going to be drinking, and you don't have to either. And he went, God bless, and he passed it to the next person. And what that did to me was this: like, I knew those people were out there, but it was like an
What's your excuse?
Yeah, it robbed me of my ability to like blame some catastrophe, or to have that loophole to like justify it, like because and I remember, like, I was maybe a week into what would become, God willing, my lifelong sobriety. I've been sober ever since, but I still had the fear, where I was like, I don't know if I can do this, and I was, my first reaction was like a quick pang of anger at him, because I knew that he had just robbed it, and he knew it. he knew that he was stealing away a lot of loopholes in that moment. And for me, you know, in retrospect, of course, I mean, the fact that I'm sitting here being able to talk about any of this in retrospect is the gift, you know?
Yeah.
But he had said that, and so I'm here, and like, you know, Neal, you know, like I won't speak for you. You can speak for yourself, of course. But I just like, I guess we're here to tell you. I mean, here we are sitting, you know, with alcohol, but like, and granted, like I have a lot of time away. You know, I couldn't do this initially, but we're here to tell you that it is in fact possible, and you don't have to feel good about doing it. You're not going to feel good initially about doing it. The best decisions that you can make in your life, I've learned, are the ones that you initially feel the worst about making. And you kind of know you might be on the right track if your body and entire physiology is like screaming at you not to do it. You know, at that point, like there's something there worth examining. Why is there this power and this conflict? And you can pick that apart, but the whole point is it can be done.
Yeah.
It's not my great strength of character that has me sitting here with, you know, almost, you know, 10 years. It's my profound weakness that got me into the position in the first place. It's just like that now I'm desperate for different things.
Yeah.
And you got to that's like a garden, you know, you got to work on that garden to keep it growing. It's hard. It's not easy, but it ebbs and flows.
And it's becoming accountable to others.
Yes.
Helping people and coming out of yourself, becoming selfless, right? Finding something greater than yourself that you can serve and not be selfish. What else? What are the other things?
Came to believe that there is a power greater than ourselves that could restore us to sanity.
Right.
Admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step two, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
Made a decision
to turn our will and our lives
that's
over to the
saying.
care of God as we understand.
That's where you take that's the turn right there.
The first three are like the Fort Sumter, you know,
right.
like the initial shots of the war.
Yes.
Like that's you throwing the gauntlet down and being like, here I am, like
right.
we who are about to die salute
like
you.
I'm choosing to do this now. I'm turning away from where I just was. Then you get into the looking at yourself.
Yes.
Right in the inventory. Who am I? Why am I here? You know what I'm saying? What's wrong with me?
Yeah, like why did this occur to me to do?
Right.
You know, and like that's the thing, you know, more than anything, like as an addict.
And you got to do all that before you start making amends with people and start saying, I'm sorry.
That's the one we all want to skip to because
yeah.
it's the most dramatic one.
Yeah.
And we are always going to be addicts, but especially like we're addicted to drama and chaos. Like, I mean, look at our, you know, our like, you know, even
addicted
now.
to drama and chaos.
Like, I'm addicted to drama. I mean, like, you know, for instance, I pick, you know, relationships like that I know going in are going to be catastrophic. They're just not going to work. Like, why do I do it? I don't know why I'm picking them. Like, that's not, like, here's all you need to know. Like, because, you know, the chaos excites me in this sick way. Like, why? Because
I don't know. I admit I'm the same way, man. It's something about that chaos.
Yeah. There's something like romantic about it in this lurid way. And it's just like, that's
but chaos and order.
Exactly.
The balance between chaos and order is something that is super, super compelling and interesting and important.
Oh, yeah. Well, things are defined by their opposites. I mean,
right.
Like, there is no happiness without sadness.
That's what I'm saying. You can't really enjoy the beautiful things in life without having
adversity face you. Like why is it beautiful if there's no contrast?
Yes, that's the word I was looking for. It's like you go through some hardships in life, all of a sudden you really, really appreciate the beautiful things in life.
That's the thing. I appreciate it, yeah.
And then people that grow up, and I'm not knocking people that, you know, if you have you grow up in a nice rich family, and you know what I'm saying? Some people, that's like rich soil. They grow in there. Beautiful people come out of that too. So I'm not knocking everybody that grows up in a wealthy home. But for a lot of people, though, they grow up in that wealthy home and have everything handed to them. And every time they get in trouble, money just pays for it. And they get out of jail easily and have everything handed to them. They go to school. It gets paid for. Those people, when they hit a bump in the road, it's
hard for them to value anything.
Yes, hard for them to value anything. And a little bump in the road takes them off their game completely. And Caesar, what is wrong with you? I think we may have to go out. Yeah, we'll close this out. Dude, listen, man. And we were talking about geniuses. I just want to say this last thing real quick. Hold on a second. Let him out. You gotta go out. Come on, go out.
Yeah, it's fine.
Is he really doing that right now? Oh, he has to go. All right. We were talking about geniuses before, and I wanted to throw this in there as like, people think geniuses, they're just smart at everything, and actually there's psychologists that study geniuses at the PhD level who study geniuses, and they're actually terrible at a lot of things.
Yeah.
So their brain is like super high in one thing and super low in other things.
It leaches energy from So for instance, it's like playing and like I'm being completely serious right now. Playing in front of 20,000 people with like the Goo Goo Dolls, Darien Lake, or actually performing for the Dalai Lama, or being in the studio when I'm working with some major artist I'm blessed to work with, and you got the record label breathing down your neck, and like pressure cooker situations that are supposed to be terrifying. Those are the ones where like not only do they not terrify me, I like get off on them. But what terrifies me, like what I actually have panic attacks about. I mean, this will sound funny, and I guess in a way it is, but I'm being completely serious. Like I have like serious anxiety problems to the point where I panic if I haven't checked my email in a day, and I open it up and I know there will be like 30 emails that I need to respond to, or if
I'm like that too, man.
Yeah, like I get or taking my car in for an inspection.
Yeah,
or something like I can't. Bring my like.
Dude,
it seems like a mountain.
Dude, we can relate a lot.
It's
all those little details. It's like I need a secretary to do it for me.
Exactly. Yeah, but like there's got to be a cost. Like that's the thing, and so like in order to be hyper refined in one area or an arena of areas, like that energy has to leach from somewhere, and it tends to leach from everyday things. And in my own life, that's like that problem has like that's why at the beginning we talked about like genius being an imbalance. It is an imbalance.
Yeah, I
mean, even the definition of genius is like it describes a gross proficiency at one. It describes a capacity that is exaggerated.
Well, Dr. Jordan Peterson mentions that there's three types of geniuses. There's analytical geniuses, there's technical geniuses, and then there's creative geniuses. And none, I'm telling you right now, they've studied this in thorough detail. None of them are all three. All of them, you're either one and the other. That's it. You're not two. Geniuses can only be one of the three. You either fall in one category and then you're terrible at the other two. So if you're super creative, you make amazing music, you're probably not good technically, you're probably not good analytically. Or you're a genius at analyzing things, but you can't create anything. It's a mind-blowing concept. And Bill, this is the last thing I want to say about that. Bill W. was clearly a genius.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And
visionary.
And a lot of people criticize him because he didn't really, it wasn't a smooth transition. He created AA and he fell a lot of times. And towards the end of his life, he started getting into spiritual awakenings and trying to play around with psychedelics at a level like with doctors and carefully. He was hanging around with Tim Leary, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
On that rabbit hole later.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll just want to show that real quick on the screen so people know I'm not making it up. And there's my source, and I say that to say this is DMT, psychedelics, stuff like that. What it does is it brings people into a state of oneness with the universe and understanding that we're part of something great. And that spiritual awakening could be the final puzzle piece to bringing someone together, finding out who they are, and actually being able to be somebody in life.
You can also have that awakening, kind of discovering what your particular, let's call it a mission, is you a transformative experience, with or without chemicals, both are viable. Hallucinogens terrified me even when I was using. So I never used them.
Well, yeah, and he made it very clear too when he wrote about it. Was this is for people very advanced in recovery, years, maybe a decade down the road, as a 12th step, some sort of 12-step replacement or whatever he said along those lines. And he made it very clear, not by yourself and with your friend in a hospital setting. only, like doctor administered, and that's it. Like so, like got to make that very clear. It's not like Bill W was saying people should go buy LSD from a dealer down the street and trip out and get a spirit. That's not what we're talking about here.
I didn't know that he was with Timothy Leary though. That's
yeah, Timothy Leary was hanging out
what
with
a
Bill
weird...
W. Yeah, can you imagine Bill W. and Timothy Leary
No, I
talking and
can't.
hanging out? That's
I
crazy.
think Timothy
dude.
Leary is such a strange
Yeah.
character that I have not made my mind up about yet, one
Yeah.
way or the other. Like, there's a lot there that is.
But you know what though? Science is progressing with the psilocybin and trying different things, and they're finding out that people with brain conditions and PTSD, it's helping them. So I want to see some more breakthroughs with that before we'll see what happens with that. But
yeah, my mind's like very open.
Yeah.
About that type of thing. I know for myself, that the drugs, that I never used, even when I was at the height of an addiction, no matter how desperate. Like for myself, I never was able to even try anything like shrooms or because I kind of knew that I would be one of these people that like believes that they're an orange and like, peels their skin off.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a very dangerous
I knew
thing.
it would be like a bit like even
It's
using
a very
marijuana
this
for me.
is a very dangerous subject too. So if like someone's early in recovery, do not do that.
yeah. So, like we talked about, like if you're early in your recovery or you're thinking you want to lay that stuff down, you can always go back out. That's the dark beauty of this. I'm here mercifully to tell you that it's an act of God that I'm here. It wasn't my great strength. I'm here to tell you the reason that 1 in 10 people make it and can live, 9 out of 10 die, is because they make the mistake of thinking because I can always go back out, I can always come back in. Right. That is the great lie.
They're always going to accept me with loving arms
of opportunity that have that we have no power.
How many people do we know have tried that and didn't come back?
Well,
at least 50 I can think of right now at the top of my
literally
head. Probably 100 though.
You start seeing bodies when you're in recovery.
Yeah, it's real. Yep. But dude, this was amazing.
Yeah, it was wonderful. This is a great time.
We definitely got to do this again, maybe a couple months down the road or something. Yeah, for sure.
It's like therapeutic, and so it's
yeah,
great to see you too. I love this guy. So.
Yeah, thank you, man. I love you too. And everybody, make sure you go follow him. And I got his links in the description. Check those out. And